The Knight of the Hollow Oath. In the shadowed annals of a forgotten kingdom, there was once a knight named Sir Aldrich Vane, a man of iron will and unyielding honor. Clad in armor forged from the bones of a fallen dragon, he swore an oath to protect his lord, Baron Edric Montreve, with his life. The Baron, a cunning and ambitious man, rewarded Aldrich's loyalty with promises of land and title. Together, they carved a legacy through blood-soaked battles, their bond tempered in the fires of war. But promises are fragile things in the hands of the treacherous. On a moonless night, beneath the gnarled boughs of blackthorn wood, Aldrich knelt before the Baron to renew his vow. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and betrayal. As Aldrich bowed his head, Montreve drove a dagger, etched with runes of dark sorcery, into the knight's back. The blade did not merely pierce flesh, it severed Aldrich's soul from the light of the world, binding it to an eternal curse. The Baron's voice hissed through the trees, "Your loyalty ends here, but your service never will." With a final incantation, Montreve condemned Aldrich to wander the earth, a hollow spectre of vengeance, until the last drop of the Baron's bloodline was extinguished. Aldrich's body crumpled, but his spirit did not rest. The curse took root, twisting his once noble form into something grotesque. His armor fused with his flesh, rusted and blackened, dripping with a tar-like ichor that seeped from unseen wounds. His eyes, now twin embers glowing beneath a shattered helm, burned with a hatred that time could not quench. The knight rose, no longer a man, but a wraith of retribution, his sword humming with the screams of the damned. Centuries passed, and the Montreve lineage spread like ivy across the land, ignorant of the shadow that stalked them. Aldrich became a whispered legend, a tale to frighten children, a ghost in the fog. Yet he was no mere story. He was the creak of armor in the dead of night, the chill that snuffed out candles, the figure glimpsed in the corner of a trembling eye. In the village of Harrowmere, the last of Montreve's bloodline dwelled, a young woman named Lysa, who bore the Baron's sharp cheekbones and piercing gaze. She lived alone in a crumbling manor, surrounded by portraits of ancestors whose names she barely knew. The townsfolk shunned her, muttering of a curse they could not name. Lysa dismissed their fear as superstition, until the night the storm came. Rain lashed the manor's walls, and lightning clawed at the sky. Lysa sat by the hearth, a book trembling in her hands, when the air grew heavy with the stench of rotten metal. The windows rattled, not from the wind, but from something pressing against them. She rose, heart pounding, as a sound echoed through the halls, a slow, deliberate clank of armored footsteps. The door burst inward, splintering like brittle bone. There stood Aldrich, a towering silhouette of jagged steel and malice. His helm tilted toward her, and the embers of his eyes flared. Lysa screamed, stumbling back as the knight advanced, his sword dragging across the floor, carving a scar into the stone. "Montreve," he rasped, his voice a chorus of rust and ruin. "Your blood ends tonight." Lysa fled, her bare feet slapping against the cold floor, but the manor twisted against her. Corridors stretched impossibly long, and doors slammed shut before she could reach them. She darted into the cellar, barricading herself behind barrels of forgotten wine, her breath ragged. The clanking grew louder, relentless, a predator savoring the hunt. Through the cracks in the wood, she saw him descend the stairs, his form illuminated by the flickering glow of his own cursed eyes. "Why me?" she sobbed, clutching a rusted candelabrum as a pitiful weapon. Aldrich paused, his head tilting as if her words stirred some buried fragment of his humanity. Then he spoke, each word a wound torn open anew. "Your kin betrayed me. Your blood is my chains." He lunged, and the candelabrum shattered against his armor like glass against stone. Lysa's screams echoed as Aldrich's sword rose, but the killing blow never fell. A tremor shook the manor, and the floor beneath them cracked open. From the abyss surged tendrils of shadow, writhing like serpents, coiling around Aldrich's limbs. He roared, slashing at them, but they dragged him downward, into the earth that had birthed his curse. Lysa scrambled back, watching as the knight's glowing eyes vanished into the void, his final cry a promise, "I will return." The manor fell silent, save for Lysa's ragged breathing. She fled into the dawn, vowing never to speak of that night. But in the depths below Harrowmere, Aldrich waited, his curse unbroken. For though Lysa lived, the blood of Montreve still flowed in her veins, and one day it would flow in another. The night's vengeance was patient, eternal, a shadow cast across generations yet unborn, and on quiet nights, when the wind howls through Blackthorn Wood, you can still hear the clank of armor, the whisper of a hollow oath, and the promise of a blade that will never rest.